Good afternoon, guys. I hope you're enjoying your Saturday. Nobody's working too hard or called in to work. Anyway, I got a crazy story for you guys. Every once in a while, a collectible or a car or an object has a crazy backstory. This would be it. Now, the two cars in front of you are actually the same car, and I'm going to explain why there's two of them in a moment. But the name of it is Miss Belvedere. Now, the crazy story of this car, it's a 1957 Plymouth Belvedere. Back in 1957, Tulsa, Oklahoma was having their Golden Jubilee. And I guess they decided to bury a time capsule and do something special as well. So they built a concrete vault that they thought would withstand a nuclear blast, is what they said at the time. That's what they were advertising. And they buried a brand new 1957 Plymouth Belvedere, which is the one on the left. I'm sure you can guess where this is going. But on the left, they buried the 57 Plymouth. And they also buried a time capsule that just had odds and ends from the period for people to dig up in 2007, 50 years later. Like in the time capsule, there was restaurant menus, there was a folded American flag, there was contents of a lady's purse. Just stuff of the period that people 50 years later can kind of say, wow, they had that stuff, or they used that stuff. So it was a big thing. A lot of people converged on the town and watched as they buried this car into the ground. They lowered it into the vault and sealed it up. A lot of people were children at the time, and sadly, a lot of people that were there no longer with us. They had a contest, and the contest was you fill out a ballot in 1957, and I believe they put the ballots into the trunk of the car in a sealed container. And if it was the person who guessed correctly or as close to the population of the future Tulsa, Oklahoma, which would be 50 years from then in 2007. So if you guessed it right or came close, the prize was this 57 Plymouth Belvedere. But you had to be around in 50 years when they did the draw. But there was a catch. They would give it to family members. So anyway, the car is buried 50 years ago. It's a big hoorah. There's a parade. There's all kinds of stuff. 50 years goes by and it comes out the centennial. It's a big thing. I guess they live streamed it. Millions of people watched it on TV because it's interesting. I mean, they're going to unearth a car that's been buried for 50 years. They buried it as a brand new car from the dealership. It's very interesting to anyone. So everybody gathered around. It was a big deal. They unburied the car, and unfortunately it was waist deep, or actually it was up to the windshield or up to the roof. I can't remember. If you Google it, you can find pictures. Google Miss Belvedere. The whole thing is documented on the unearthing. And basically, they got what's on the right, which was a car that was completely rotten from sitting in water for 50 years. It wouldn't even carry its own weight on the suspension. And the man had died that won the contest. So they tracked down the family members, and so the family members decided to all split it up or whatever. Now, the cool part of the story is a guy named Dwight Foster, as I believe was his name. He owned a company that called Ultra One Rust Remover. It's in New Jersey. And I guess it removes rust like magic. Now, it didn't fix the car because the car was so far gone. What it did is it stabilized it for transport, and it made it look 100 times better than it did. So the car looks a lot better than it does in the package. These are Greenlight collectible hobby exclusives, by the way. I had to have them. I knew the story about the car, so when I seen these existed, had to have them. But anyway, it was restored enough to be moved and look a lot prettier. And Now the car sits in the Historic Auto Attractions Museum in Roscoe, Illinois. But just a very cool, crazy car story. Like, you would never think anyone would think to bury the car. Like I said, it was buried in a vault that was meant to withstand a nuclear blast. But when one of the city officials that was around all those years asked what maintenance was done on it, he said, "Maintenance? We cut the grass over top of it." But I guess during construction, a water main broke many years ago, and that's what was said to have caused the flooding. Broken pipe, whatever. Anyway, guys, take care. That's the story of Miss Belevedere. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe for more content. And as always, happy hunting!